every trip, there's something that I haven't seen before. The last trip I went on, there was just an amazing river crossing of zebras, thousands of them, just happened unexpectedly. They just arrived down on the river. We were down there looking for lions, and we saw these zebras grouping together, and more were arriving. And just to watch those cross the river was just astounding.
Hello and welcome to the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast. I'm Angela Nicholson and I'm the founder of SheClicks, which is a community for female photographers. In these podcasts, I speak to women in the photographic industry to hear about their experiences, what drives them, and how they got to where they are now. This episode is with Ann Aveyard, a wildlife photographer and photographic safari leader. Anne believes that a safari is about sharing knowledge, sparking curiosity, forming connections, creating images, and embracing challenges. Hi, Anne. Thank you so much for joining me today on the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast.
Thank you, Angela. It's great to be here.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. So let's start right at the beginning. Although you had a career as a nurse in the National Health, you also had a long-term interest in photography. So what was it that first sparked that interest?
I think I'd always had an interest in photography, family holidays, as a child growing up, looking at photographs, old family photographs. So, yes, I was always interested in recording events and recording moments and life events. So I've just had that interest, really. I didn't actually pick up a camera till quite late on. I think it was when I got married, my husband had a camera, a Pentax, I think it was. I found it very difficult to use, manual focus. I wasn't getting anything from it. So it was only when digital started, really, that I started photography. And that made it so much easier for me. Yeah.
So I've got my first digital SLR in 2010. So are we talking around that time?
Before that.
Okay. So more compacts.
It was a Canon 400D, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think it was probably just before 2010. Yeah. But that was the first one, yes.
Okay. So how did you switch from being a nurse to becoming a professional photographer?
It was by accident, really, I think. I took early retirement, and a friend who was also retiring at the same time said she fancied going on a safari. So I said, well, yeah, I'd like to do that as well. So we decided to go together. And I thought, well, while I'm there, I know I want to take some photographs. I've got this 100D. I've got no idea what I'm doing with the thing. It's stuck on A for automatic. And I just press the button. And I thought, well, I really want to take some half-decent photos when we're there. So I took myself off to college. And that was it. I just got hooked on photography. I just found it absolutely fascinating and did loads of courses from them at the college, and just fell in love with photography. So going on that first safari sparked my interest in photography.
But you actually became a professional wedding photographer for a while, didn't you?
Yes, I did. And again, purely by accident. Nothing was planned. I was enjoying taking photographs of wildlife, put them up on social media. Friends saw them. A colleague at work, an ex-colleague, saw my photographs, and her niece was getting married, and her photographer had let her down. So I was contacted and said, would you take some photos? And I said, I've never photographed a wedding. All I've photographed is animals. No, I can't do that. And a bit of pressure was put on me, and eventually I gave in and said, look, I'll have a chat with the bride and groom. And I chatted with them and I said, look, I've never photographed a wedding before in my life. You're taking a huge risk. And they said, well, if you don't take the photos, we won't have any. So we're happy with whatever you do.
Okay. Emotional blackmail.
It was. But, I didn't go in blind. I did a few workshops and things before the wedding. I had time to learn a bit about wedding photography, so I felt a bit more confident about doing it. And from that wedding, I got 3 bookings. So I thought, well, this is rather nice. I've quite enjoyed this. It's working quite well. I enjoy people, so I was able to work quite well with people. So I set up a wedding photography business, which I did for 10 years.
So it sounds like that first wedding shoot went quite well then, because you weren't too traumatized.
No.
Great.
Incredibly nervous, and I was always nervous on the day of a wedding. But I think having a little bit of nerves helps in some ways. It keeps your adrenaline going. It keeps you fresh, I think, rather than being complacent. But yes, it went well. And yes, I enjoyed it, surprisingly. And they were very pleased with the results. Yes, it was great fun.
So you did that as a profession for about 10 years, and then you realised that wildlife photography was really your thing.
Yeah, I think it was in COVID.
Okay.
I think COVID made a lot of people think about things, think about life. And it was a time when we were all stuck indoors. We could only go out for an hour or so a day. And I was thinking of the amount of time I spent editing wedding photographs. After each wedding, it was at least a week I would spend editing. Then there was the album to design. I don't really want to be doing that much on the computer. I want to be out photographing. And I'd always photograph wildlife for myself anyway. I was always going out photographing anything, hares in the field, birds in the forest. So that was my relaxation. So I thought I'd rather spend more time out with my camera in nature rather than doing the weddings. So I made that decision in COVID. All the weddings that had been cancelled because of COVID, I honoured those bookings but didn't take any more.
Okay. So obviously your first trip to Kenya was really transformational for you in many ways.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was something I'd never experienced anything like that before. It was just, just the wildness, just being there with nature and enjoying photographing it and documenting it. I just loved it.
You often talk about telling a story through your images. What are you looking for when you're composing a shoot? So your shot, so you're not just getting a portrait of an animal, you're getting the story.
It's waiting. It's understanding animal behaviour and just waiting for some of that behaviour to happen. If you spend time with an animal, you realise what they might do next. Nothing is guaranteed because they do their own thing. But it's spending time with the animal, so understanding their behaviour. For example, lions are very, very social animals and they might spend a lot of time sleeping. But if one starts to wake up and get up, you know that it'll go to another lion and they'll rub heads and greet each other. So it's knowing that when something is likely to happen and to just follow it through and capture it.
Yeah. I suppose it's a bit like, I don't know if you have any pets, but when you have a pet, you know their habits, don't you? When you spend time watching wildlife, you start to get an idea of what they're going to do when, their habits and their personalities.
Yes. Yeah, it's right. We haven't got any pets, unfortunately. Our daughter was, is asthmatic. And as a child growing up, we couldn't have pets. Yes. But it's understanding the behaviour and getting to know the animals.
Now, you mentioned waiting with wildlife photography, and it is known for requiring lots of patience. How do you maintain your motivation when there's no real action? Say, maybe you've arrived and the lions have just gone to sleep, so it's going to be a while before they actually get up and do anything interesting.
It's plenty of other things going around. There are birds in the trees. There are other things happening that you can keep your eyes open for. It's not just out on safari. When here in England, I spent 6 hours once waiting for a kingfisher. The kingfishers had been seen and occasionally we'd seen them flying past. But I spent 6 hours waiting for them to arrive on a particular branch where he quite often used to sit. But when you're sitting waiting, there are other birds in the trees, there are things happening around you. So it's just being aware of your environment and just taking it all in, really, and just enjoying it.
Yes, I suppose just relaxing and kind of focusing on what you're actually doing rather than champing at the bit.
And you don't think about the time. You just, you don't think about it. You just enjoy being there in the moment.
Mm-hmm. So over the last 15 years or so, you've been to Kenya many, many times. I mean, it astounds me how many times I see you post that you're off to Kenya.
Yes.
Does it still surprise you? What keeps pulling you back?
It's different every time. You might see the same animal, but they'll be in a different place. They'll be doing different things. There's new animal behaviour to learn. Every trip, there's something that I haven't seen before. The last trip I went on, there was just an amazing river crossing of zebras. Thousands of them, just happened unexpectedly. They just arrived down on the river. We were down there looking for lions and we saw these zebras grouping together and more were arriving. And yeah, just to watch those cross the river was just astounding, how they were risking their lives to get across to the other side because, they wanted the grass on the other side, and it's nature is incredible, why they all did that at that time and how they communicate, right, we're going to go. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's astonishing. Now, you regularly lead photographic safaris rather than just going out by yourself. What do you most enjoy about leading a group of other photographers?
I just love sharing the place with them, sharing my knowledge about the Pacific animals, the behaviour. I just like seeing their faces light up. When people arrive there, just seeing their eyes, their faces light up, seeing it all, especially if it's their first time. It's quite a magical experience. It's such a lovely place to share.
Oh, I can imagine, because I was in Iceland with a SheClicks group co-leading with Emily Endine, and we were shooting the aurora, so we couldn't actually see each other's faces, but I sort of suggested some settings and we all set up, and then I could just hear these little happy chirps every now and again, or someone's, I've got one, I've got it, and that was just so nice. It's just lovely. And then, of course, people are sharing their images later. And you kind of just nod to yourself. It's really lovely.
And we have had moments out there when something really special's happened, and I've turned around to my guests, and we've just had tears in our eyes. Just absolutely speechless, and wow, didn't expect to see that, and wasn't that wonderful? And it might be just a fleeting moment, but it's just to share it with somebody is lovely.
Do you sometimes put your camera down and just sort of soak it up?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's quite important. And I think sometimes in putting it down, you can look around a little bit more. You might be concentrating on one aspect, but, there might be something happening to your left or to your right. And I think sometimes you just have to, enjoy the moment as well.
Yeah, because looking at some of the photographs I've seen, say, from Iceland, they bring back that feeling of cold and that memory of looking at something. So the photographs are there, but they're split-second moments. Some are multiple-second moments. They're long exposures, but they give you the whole story. You start to picture everything, don't you? You piece it together, and you remember the scene, and you remember who was to your left and what they said and what was going on to your right. It is a really. It's more than just having a picture on your camera or on your phone or your hard drive.
Yeah. It's a feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
And many of my guests, and I feel the same too, when we come home and edit, when you're looking at one particular picture, you can remember exactly what was happening at the moment and exactly what other people were saying, as you said. It brings back all those memories, doesn't it?
Yes, definitely. Now, you and I are going to lead a safari in November 2027. What advice, I'm very excited about it. What advice would you give to someone who's never been on a safari before? Do they need to do much preparation before they go?
Well, there are certain things you have to think about, in terms of the documents, your passport and all that sort of thing, and inoculations. Also thinking about what equipment to take with you. We are limited to weight, although we'll have extra weight allowance. But you don't want to be carrying too much stuff. You will be in a Jeep. Thinking about the clothing you're going to need to take. It's very hot there in the middle of the day, but it's cold in the mornings and evenings. So it's just planning ahead and just making sure you're bringing the right things. A lot of people, are a bit apprehensive and perhaps about going to somewhere like Africa for the first time. A bit frightened about the animals, are we going to be safe? All that sort of thing. It's a lot to think about, especially having been before. But it's a lovely country and very, very safe.
Great. I mean, obviously, we will advise people on kit who do actually sign up, and we can help them work out what clothing they need to take and all of that. But yes, very exciting. What are you most excited about sharing with the group?
I'm just excited about just sharing the Masai Mara. It's a beautiful location. The camp is in a lovely situation right on the Mara River. So you've got the river flowing through. It's an unfenced camp, so the animals are free to wander through day and night, which I think is lovely because it's their home and we are the guests there, their environment. So you just feel part of nature. And the landscape is quite something. It's open, mostly open grasslands, and stopping for breakfast or lunch out there, and you just stand there and you just see all that openness. It's just beautiful. It really is beautiful. Yeah.
So I think where you just have to have a little moment every now and again and kind of acknowledge where you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, you just just sit back and think, wow, look, it's wonderful. Yeah, it is lovely.
I always like meetups and events and workshops in the evening when everybody gets together and chats through the day and hear what they thought of things. That's always a really special time, I think.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Our days are fairly busy there.
Mm-hmm.
So, so early starts, quite long days. It can be quite tiring, but I think everybody's running on adrenaline most of the time, because it's excitement, and the moment it's quiet on a game drive or quiet in the evening, that's when suddenly something will happen. You think, wow, elephants are walking through the camp, or, lions just popped up somewhere on the track as you're driving along. It's you just don't know what's going to happen. It's the anticipation of what's going to happen.
I really wish it was this November and not
So
2027. We've got to wait so long. Yes, it's very exciting. Well, I think that's a really good time to go to 6 from SheClicks. I've got 10 questions from SheClickers, and I would like you to answer 6 of them, please, by picking numbers from 1 to 10. So could I have your first number, please?
Number 2.
Right, number 2. Many SheClickers shoot locally due to time or budget constraints. What is your advice to help them discover the hidden wildlife opportunities in their own neighbourhoods? That question's from Carmen.
Most people will live near nature reserves, places like that, parks. So it's just a case of visiting these places, because if you go into a nature reserve, you often meet somebody with a camera, have a chat to them, what is around locally. There are various look on websites and you'll see what's around to photograph. And there are always places where there are birds to photograph.
Instagram can be a good source of inspiration, can't it? Because
Yes,
if
definitely.
you look up people who've tagged the local nature reserve, you say, and you can see which species are there. And of course, then you've got to work out how to find them. But that's part of the fun, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But I think having connections and connecting with people makes a big difference. Well, be it social media or when you're out walking and chatting to people. And if you see somebody with a camera, they're obviously looking for stuff as well.
Yeah, yes, it's always a giveaway. Okay, could I have your second number, please?
Number 4, please.
Why Kenya and the Masai Mara in particular? What draws you there? Several people asked that question.
In Africa, there are just so many countries. Kenya, I think I was originally drawn to it because of watching The Big Cat Diary. That was the reason we chose to go to the governor's camp, because it was filmed there.
Right.
And I've been to Tanzania, but I've not been to any of the other countries. Kenya, I find easy to travel to. It's a direct flight. The people are extremely friendly. It's a relatively safe country. Everything is quite accessible. They've got the Masai Mara, but they've got other parks there. Amboseli, there's Laikipia, Samburu. So there are lots of other places within Kenya, and I've visited a few of them. The Masai Mara does have quite a high amount of wildlife, which is easily accessible. And I just like the landscape there.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a nice backdrop to the animals you're photographing.
Yeah. And also, Kenya is one of the countries that has done extremely well anti-poaching.
Mm-hmm.
So they've managed to knock that on the head quite well. And also, they don't have game trophy hunting, which I'm very anti that. And a lot of the other African countries also still have trophy hunting, which I do have a problem with, really.
Yes, it's a horrible practice.
Yes, it is.
So, could I have your third number, please?
7.
Number 7. Do you have any pictures in your mind's eye that you've not yet managed to capture? That question is for Marie-Ange.
I try not to have pictures that I particularly want to take, because I think if you concentrate on trying to get that one picture, you might end up being disappointed.
Yeah.
So I try not to think, well, I want to get a particular shot. I just tend to go with the flow. Whatever's there, I will try and photograph. For a long time, I wanted to get a silhouette out in Kenya, the red sky behind and a silhouette of an animal in front. And I managed to get one on this last trip. We just happened to be driving across a bridge, and suddenly there on the horizon was a giraffe with a red sky, totally by accident. And it was literal, we had seconds to take it because there was somebody else behind us. We had to move on. But I was really pleased I'd got that, because it was one I'd wanted to get for a while. But I tend not to try and focus on getting a particular image. Because I think sometimes you can be too focused on that and end up thinking, well, I'm disappointed I didn't get the shot I wanted to get. So I try not to.
Yeah, I guess if you go out thinking, I really want to get a photo of a leopard in a tree, and then you spend an hour photographing a leopard, but it doesn't go up the tree, you can kind of lose sight of the fact you've just spent an hour photographing a leopard in the wild. That's pretty special.
Yeah, you're quite. And I remember somebody telling me about a guy who went, I think, somewhere up in Scotland to photograph otters. And he had a particular idea about getting a photograph of an otter with a wet coat in the rain in a certain position. So he spent the whole week trying to get that shot.
Yeah.
Probably missed others because he was so focused on getting that one shot. And it's very difficult with wildlife, trying to get a particular shot like that. It can't be planned.
No, you've got to have a bit more of an open mind.
Yeah, but if it happens, it happens.
Okay. Could I have your fourth number, please?
Number 9, please.
Wildlife isn't always pretty. As a wildlife photographer, where do you draw the line? How real should wildlife photography be? And at what point should we censor what content is shared? That question is from Rung. That's an interesting one.
Yes. I personally carry on photographing, I think. I haven't come to the stage when I put the camera down and not take the photos. I don't always share them. I've just been looking through some photos of the river crossing with the zebras, and there were crocodiles there, but I haven't shared those photographs because I don't think everybody needs to see them. I personally have taken them and I've got them for my record, but I think you have to be sensitive to other people.
Yeah.
Photographing animals eating, I will post, those I think are fine because that's nature. I think it depends on how graphic it is as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
like you say, the audience is important as well.
Yes.
So if it's unregulated audience, then maybe you want to censor yourself a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yes. Yeah, I think, as I say, it depends on the audience.
Okay. All right. So your penultimate number, please.
1.
Do you need to change your approach when you're photographing in Africa versus when you're photographing in the UK? And that question's from Paula.
Yes, you do, because in Africa, you are in a Jeep. In the UK, I'm usually on foot. I don't use hides very often, so I'm usually on foot, and I'm free to walk around as I wish. In Africa, we're in a Jeep, so you are more confined. When I'm out here, I like to get as low as I possibly can to be on eye level with an animal, or even in lower. In a Jeep, it's a little bit more difficult. There are ways to do it, but it is harder. So it is quite different to photographing in the UK.
If you're in a Jeep, I mean, there are some animals in Africa you do not want to get out of that Jeep. You have to stay in it.
You can't get out of the Jeep. You're not allowed out of the Jeep. Only on certain places when the guy says it's safe to get out of the Jeep. The animals are quite used to the Jeeps. They see the Jeep as a shape. But if you if you sat on the top of the Jeep, the shape changes so that this changes their behaviour. Safety is always important. And obviously getting close to the big animals like the elephants, animals like that, you have to respect the wildlife. You have to be quiet. You don't want to startle them, which will change their behaviour. So it's just being very careful and be very aware of your surroundings. And it is more difficult being in a Jeep at times. In some ways, it's helpful because it's like a hide, and you've got somewhere to support your camera and things like that. And but you can't just get up and walk 2 steps to the right or 2 steps to the left. It is more difficult.
But I guess it's nice because you don't have to carry your kit around with you. It can be
No, it's
to
all
the
in,
side,
it's
not
all
on your
in the
back.
Jeep. It's all in the Jeep.
Because that can be one of the most tiring things, actually, can't it? Say you're in Bushy Park and you decide to walk around.
Yes.
And, by the time you've got there, you think, I could do with a cup of tea now.
And sometimes when I've been at Bushy Park, I get back to the car and I think, gosh, I walked 8 miles today.
Yeah.
Where was the 8 miles? Round and round and round in circles.
Yes, and that with a backpack full of camera gear.
Yeah.
Okay, so your final number then, please.
Number 10.
This person is thinking of going to the SheClicks trip to the Masai Mara. She says, I have a Canon 70-200 lens and a 100-400 Mark II lens, which I use on my Canon 90D and 7D Mark II DSLRs. Neither of these lenses have a maximum aperture of f2.8. Would this prevent me from getting good images in low light? That's from Helen.
I have a 70-200 f2.8. But the lens I use most of the time is the 100-500. And at full 500, it's 7.1. But I've managed to get good images. It is difficult in the low light. You're always balancing. Obviously, you're shooting at the widest aperture possible. The ISO I tend to put on automatic. And then it's just playing with the shutter speed. And initially, just trying to get it as low as possible and still keep the image sharp. At that time of day, things are probably just sitting still. So if they're fairly still, you can get your shutter speed down really, really low. And supporting the camera on the Jeep side on a beanbag, you can get it lower than you would normally hand holding. So it's juggling with those shutter speeds really, and getting a safe shot, and then just reducing your shutter speed to the lowest one you can get and still getting a sharp image.
You've got to think about that balance, haven't you? Because it's probably better to have a noisy image than one that's a bit blurred.
Yes, yeah. And because you can deal with noise a bit in post-processing.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, because that has come on leaps and bounds in the last, well, not even, in the last 12 months. It's just incredible how far you can push the ISO up now and get good images. Would you recommend that people take beanbags, or is it something that tends to be in the Jeep?
They do have a couple of beanbags, but I've got one of these beanbags that has polystyrene balls in them.
Oh, so it's light.
It's light, and I can use it as a pillow on the plane.
Good thinking. Very good thinking.
Because obviously, weight's a problem. We can't take beanbags, with sand or whatever in. There's nothing there to fill them with. So I tend to use the polystyrene one. A monopod, you could be used in the Jeep as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was possible. But even just resting it on the side of the Jeep, it works quite well.
Yeah. Have you seen a speedy gimbal?
Yes.
I think that's really good. It's basically like a cup and ball, isn't it? So you use that. Yeah, you use it to rest your camera on your monopod, and it's really flexible. So that's really good.
And actually, the weight. I think one of the group has bought a clamp that she thought she could fit onto the side of the Jeep to use with the speedy gimbal.
Yes. Yeah. I've seen those.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Anne, thank you so much for answering all those questions. It's been fabulous talking with you, and I cannot wait.
Yes.
Until we get to go to the Masai Mara together.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Yeah, it'd be absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Angela. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining me for this episode of the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Special thanks to everyone who sent in a question. You'll find links to Anne's social media channels and website in the show notes. I'll be back with another episode soon, so please subscribe to the show and tell all your friends and followers about it. You'll also find SheClicks on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube if you search for SheClicksNet. So until next time, enjoy your photography.